about a power play. A power play between who and who? Who is making this power play? Is the presidency playing with itself?
Well, let me bluntly tell you, to start with, that they are trying to fuse the Niger Delta Development Commission under the Ministry of Niger Delta doesn't make fiscal sense, doesn't make economic sense. By that I mean, the budget of the Niger Delta Development Commission, the NDDC, is about 81 billion naira. The budget of the Ministry of Niger Delta is about a paltry 23 or 24 billion naira. Now, who is to control who? So you can see that already we're having this conflict of an economic tussle, so to say. So you can see that that's already a recipe for disaster. So the power play has started. So we will suggest that let the NDDC, if possible, be moved back to the office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, which is directly under the presidency, because the NDDC, by its original plan, is an interventionist agency set up to take care of the issues of the Niger Delta. And when we say the issues of the Niger Delta, we are not just talking about the construction of roads, the construction of bridges, the construction of the infrastructure that will tickle the prosperity of the Niger Delta, which is very important and utmost important, but these things have a multiplier effect on the security of the Niger Delta, which also has a multiplier effect on the continuous production of the oil that sustains the economy. So it's a long value chain. And that shouldn't be, you understand, that shouldn't be toyed with.
Let's hypothesize. Yeah. For instance, we don't know what the Senate will decide today.
Yeah.
And assuming, without conceding that will be the case, if they go ahead and have the NDDC in the ministry, what happens?
Well, we may continue to have this kind of power play, avoidable power play that has caused this unnecessary, frivolous distraction. And that's what we are avoiding. But however it is, the minister there, Godswill Akpabio, is an experienced governor. And that is why we are also appealing to him that what is happening at this particular moment, he may have been involved in taking the decision that he thought at a particular time was good for the people of the Niger Delta. But he should listen to the ground. He will now understand. I'm coming. He will now understand that the decision is not going well. The decision is unpopular.
What decision is that?
The decision that an interim management committee should replace a full board.
But you also said the other thing. Isn't that justified in what you said earlier, that there's been massive corruption in the NDDC and it needs to be checked?
Maybe you didn't listen to me.
I listened to you quite well.
Hold on. Let me give it to you. There is massive corruption in the NDDC that needs to be checked with a forensic audit. Furthermore, we are even recommending that the forensic audit should be undertaken by probably an internationally reputable organization that its chances of being compromised is slim. But I have also stated here that the members as nominated into this current board are not parts of the boards.
And you don't think
the boards that we want to investigate. So how does that stall the progress? So what is important is that while the forensic audit is going on, the inauguration of the board, the confirmation and inauguration of the board should go on so that the projects in the Niger Delta and the associated development in the Niger Delta that is expected of the NDDC midwife should go on.
What if that board that you're talking about is in office and the previous boards also come to corrupt them?
So if the previous board can come to corrupt the present board, you think the previous board cannot corrupt more of a three-man committee that has people like a medical doctor, Karo Jimbo, as EDP? What does he know about project management? But I heard him in your studio talking about how he read engineering in 1979. Come on, who does that in a developing economy?
You know that this IMC that you're talking about now is directly being supervised by the minister himself, who you say is experienced.
Did you hear the word supervise? Supervision is different from execution. We're talking about a board that will sit day to day, attend to the problem, and execute. Let me tell you something.
Are you by any chance suggesting that the Ministry of Niger Delta and the NDDC, Niger Delta Development Commission, could be working against each other? Do you think they are doing the same thing, so and consequently one of them should be scrapped?
It shouldn't be, but that is what it seems now. That is why earlier on I had even suggested that the NDDC should be moved back to the presidency. But if it must stay in the Ministry of Niger Delta, the minister, having a minister like somebody like Akpabio with capacity, should find a way to complement them and avoid this unnecessary confusion that we are into, because we don't understand the intent for this confusion. It should be avoided. You know, let me tell you something. The whole of that NDDC is a kind of a funny place that should be managed well. Let me tell you, the Niger Delta Development Commission, by rumor, has appropriated some billions into the clearing of water hyacinth. Which reasonable organization in this world thinks like that?
When actually, part of the probe?
Huh?
Is that not going to be part of what will be audited?
That's part of what will be audited. But don't forget that even the minister that came in under his supervision has approved the payment of water hyacinth. But the point I'm trying to make is that you can see that the NDDC is not strategic. Water hyacinth in itself, the amount of money used to clear water, just 10% of that amount could have set up an industry that would take advantage of the water hyacinth to produce paper that would have been adding value to the. But that's not the main point. The main point I'm trying to make here is that the forensic auditing should take place, but the board, as will be confirmed by the Senate any moment from now, should be inaugurated and allowed to begin to think for the people of the Niger Delta and push the project and dissociate themselves from the usual political brigandage and recklessness and the exporting of the NDDC funds for politics, which is what has always been. So that is what should be avoided, and that is what the minister should concentrate on. The second thing the minister should concentrate on is that he has a paltry 24 billion naira as his allocation. He should think about getting our support to up his budget so that he can attend to the East-West Road and other developmental issues that needs to be attended to. He does not need this distraction.
It's interesting you use the word paltry for 24 billion.
But that's what it is compared to the development that is needed there.
I hear you.
No, Chamale, don't take it somewhere else. We all heard you. Please take it into law, but not in that
You said
manner.
so, didn't you? I'm only saying what you said. All right, there you go. That's Alfred Kemepabo, who is the Secretary General of Ijeoyu County. Thank you for coming on this.
Thanks for having me.